Today's guest is Büşra Coşkuner. She is a product coach, advisor, trainer, and keynote speaker, and she's well known in the product community in Europe as the metrics lady. She's spent more than 15 years in product, working at companies like Doodle, Home24, and Deutsche Telekom before founding her own practice in 2020. Since then, she's worked with over 50 product teams across European startups and scale-ups, helping them build the kind of clarity and decision-making rigor that moves the needle for the business. You've probably seen her on stage at the Product Management Festival in Zurich, Craft Conference in Budapest, or most recently, Product Conf Paris. She's also a returning workshop speaker at Product at Heart, which puts her in a pretty select company, and I'm excited to have her on the podcast. In this episode, we get into some of the career lessons that nobody tells you directly. Things like why your job as an individual contributor is to make your manager successful, what first-time people managers almost always get wrong, and why the teams that love their leader the most are sometimes the ones being failed by them. We also talk about ADHD and what managing it has taught Büşra about leading overloaded teams. So let's jump in, starting with the realization that allowed Büşra to accelerate her career based on some feedback she received while she was at Home24.
There were a couple of situations where I got feedback like from one of our managing directors. Me and a colleague, we were discussing and we were discussing problems. And then he stopped and he didn't shout at us, but like he raised his voice and said, "Okay, guys, stop here. You come to me with lots of problems. I want you to come to me with solutions. So what's your suggestion?" And I know this is something that many people see as a bad thing. Don't come to me with problems, but with solutions. But that was one of the first types of feedback that made me think, hey, actually, I am allowed to think further. I don't need his permission to figure out a solution for the problem that we have here.
Yep.
And actually he wants it. Ooh.
Right.
So that was the first thing.
So you're not just a victim of this situation. You're part of the solution to the situation that you're complaining about.
Exactly. And I don't need to wait for permission. Right, so that's a big thing. Like we learn at school that we have to wait for permission to do something, right? Oh, I want to go to the toilet. I raise my hand and I need permission to go to the toilet. Like we are out of school, and this was one of my first jobs. So I have a classic PM background, and I started at telecommunication. And Home24 was my first digital company in the digital space, and also completely different way of product management, right? So that's a different topic. And now I'm here in front of the managing director and he wants me to think. So this is like, oh, wait, this is cool, right? That's the one thing. And then the other thing that happened in the same company was another manager gave me feedback. So there was this role, which was the reason why I switched the teams from tech to marketing. And it was about building up a new product team that would do proper product, basically. And part of that would be conversion rate optimization. And I wanted to be in this team of conversion rate optimization. And I came in, but what I had to do was so little compared to what another guy had to do. And what I noticed was that this guy got all the cool stuff and I had to do lots of project management stuff.
Right.
And I asked for feedback, like, why is this? I came here, I switched teams. It was not the manager who I made the deal. It was a different manager. Then we had a restructuring. And I came here for doing this. And you give me stuff that I could state at the tech team for. And his feedback was this. When I ask him, like that colleague, to do something, he says, yes, sure, I'll figure it out. And he goes away and he finds something that works for my needs.
Yeah.
When I tell you to do something, you come up with hundreds of reasons why it's problematic to do that and why it's difficult to do that and why you believe it's not a good idea instead of just doing it. So after the first feedback, the second feedback, which was like a couple of months in between, was like a hammer on my brain. And it was like, oh, fuck, he's right. right? So like, why is that? Like, why do I come up with all these problems instead of saying, yep, sure, I will do it.
Yeah.
And it took me lots of conversations actually, and quite some years. Even like moving the countries, like I moved from Germany to Switzerland, failed at a startup and then started at Doodle. And before I started at Doodle, I had a conversation with my husband, back then boyfriend, now husband. And I told him, look, I don't want to make the same mistakes and I don't want to get this type of feedback that I got at Home24. What would you suggest to me? And he said, actually, this gave me the biggest aha moment. His feedback, his summary of this 2 pieces of feedback was, of course you got this feedback because your job as an individual is not to be a problem. Your job is to support your manager and make your manager successful. And for me, bang, it was like, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah.
That changes my whole perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because to me, getting this request, do XYZ, to me was like, okay, I get this task, but I think, in my perspective, I think this doesn't make sense because XYZ. But I don't have the whole perspective. I don't know what my manager knows, right? I don't know what he has, like the type of conversations that he has. I don't know what's expected from him, from his managers. I don't know what goals he has. But he has a request for some reason. So instead of me being there and thinking like, oh, this is stupid, I don't want to do this, I should actually help him figure out how to, like a customer, right? Figure out what's the need, what's his goal, and what does success look like to him. And try to find a way to make it happen, meet his need, and make him successful. That changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So at Doodle, basically, I applied what my husband said, like, I applied this thinking. I tried to make my manager successful, and it helped. I even got promoted. So, yeah.
This whole mindset shift to, well, the job is to solve these problems that you've set for me. I might disagree with some of them. I might have a debate sometimes. We might have a conversation that could be constructive, but at the same time, my job is to do that, as opposed to run my own fiefdom.
And interestingly, this conversation never happens, right? Like nobody tells anyone, hey, your job is to make your manager successful. And imagine a manager would tell this to their direct reports. Like the direct reports would be like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're so arrogant, right? So like they would not accept it if a manager would say that. So it's very interesting. This is an outside perspective that every IC needs to receive from someone, but not from the manager.
That's interesting that you can't necessarily receive that directly from the manager, because when it comes from the manager, it sounds selfish and it sounds off somehow. Like, it sounds like, why would I, if you just want to make you successful, well, it's a weird job in some ways. But the definition of the work that you're doing, the product you're building, or whatever you're doing is in order to deliver the results that the manager set up to deliver. And their job is to deliver the results that the CEO has set them, and so on. So it sort of flows down from everywhere, but that's actually the whole point. I want to hit a pause button and really draw your attention to this part of the podcast, because this advice that Büşra shares here is real gold. I learned it myself the hard way. Your job, especially when you're early in your career, is to make your manager successful. You're not there to show how smart you are, or to bring problems, or argue with them, or even change their direction. You're there to execute and make them successful. That's the job. Everything else comes after that, including making the customer happy. So I just wanted to give you a chance at this moment to share this episode with one product person who's on their first, second, or third product role, someone maybe a bit earlier in their career. Think of someone you know and share this episode with them. They'll thank you for it. I wish that someone had sent me this 15 years ago. Anyway, back to the podcast.
I think it's partially because of this whole debate about leader versus manager kind of thing. Like, and there's the myth that every boss has to be a leader. Like only if you are a leader, you're a good boss. And It's like,
Yeah,
no.
There's bad is manager and good is leader. That whole thing.
Exactly.
That-
And
yeah,
it's so like, I get it that it comes from a point of frustration, but I strongly believe a boss, like I use boss as a general term, right?
Yeah.
I read Radical Candor and it immediately resonated with me. Like she also Kim Scott also calls it boss, right? So because
Yeah.
it's neutral, and I think a boss has situations where they need to be a leader and situations where they need to be a manager. It's important to understand when you need to be what, but you like the leadership part falls apart as soon as you set yourself into a spotlight, like saying, "Hey, you have to obey because you have to make me successful," right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that whole leadership part falls apart, and you don't have any chance to make anyone follow you. Right?
So,
That's
yeah.
gone.
Yeah. So it's almost
That's
like
why I believe you should not say it as a leader.
yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing there. Like, I mean, because it almost needs to come up from, you have to realize this, have a realization, have this revelation that the job is to satisfy the needs that is happening here. And, you know, I have opinions in different directions, but I mean, if I'm doing my own thing, well, what is my job? What is my job? Why am I, why are they hiring me if it's not to make them successful? Like, that's actually the
Exactly.
thing. That's a really interesting thing. So when you look at this, I mean, when you tell this story, I think I hear the same thing at multiple levels. Like you tell us about individual contributors getting a bit more strategic, but then that transition to manager is when you become a manager, you have to deal with the management of the team, but you also have to deal with the next layer of management. And as you go up in the organization, actually, I always think of like the IC's job is relatively downwards facing and a little bit upwards, and as you go more senior, your job gets more and more upwards facing.
Yep.
Which is ironic because you have more people downwards, right? But those people have more autonomy, more initiative, at least if it's managed well. And so you become more and more upwards. And one of the biggest challenges I see with people who get to leadership roles is dealing with that and thinking like, well, my job is to run product, or my job is to lead this function and get this right. And everyone else is really annoying. So I've got to manage their expectations and guide them to where I think we should go. But my job is to run this product. Have you come across that kind of pattern across people you've worked with?
Oh, I made the same mistake myself. So yeah, absolutely. That's another point. So I coach a lot of first time product leaders. Not CPO level, but more like this, I call it the sandwich level, right? So when you're a lead PM or a head of product, a principal PM, something like that, group PM, something along those lines, where you're still responsible for, like you're still an IC somehow, like you do have a team and have to work with them.
Yeah,
and at the same time, yes, some hands-on stuff. And at the same time, you're a manager or a leader, like you're a boss of a group of people. So you do have direct reports and you do have to deal with the management. So it's the sandwich layer thing. And it's a tough job because it's so schizophrenic, right?
So what, sorry? So schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic, yes. And so basically I deal with that sandwich layer. And one of the things that I see so much is that they still try to please their cross-functional team. They still try to please their peers and don't put enough effort into relationship building with the management.
Yeah.
They don't, like, they see themselves as 75% still IC, 25% manager. And I have, like, one of the first things that I have to do with them is making them aware that it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Now they are 75% management level, 25% IC level, even if they feel in a different way. As soon as you have some closer relationship to the management level, because now you're a boss of some magnitude, right? So small or big. Your team already sees you in a different light.
Yeah.
They don't see you as the same person already. So you your new besties become the management team and not your cross-functional team anymore. That's a hard learning that I had to go through as well. In one of my interim head of product roles, I set up a really, really well-working team. Like everybody was doing their job, everybody knew which way to go, and so on and so forth. And everybody was happy, and we had a very good relationship. I, as the head of product, with the team, but I failed to create a good, strong relationship full of trust with the other head ofs.
Yeah.
And the feedback that I got from the CEO was, it doesn't help. It simply doesn't help if you have a great relationship with your team and your team works well as a closed entity, but you don't have a good relationship with the rest of the management team because you are not able to push your stuff.
Yeah.
That was such a hard learning. So this is now something that I pass on, right? And after that, like the other leadership roles that I received then, or that I held in other interim gigs, went way better after that.
Oh, really?
Tough feedback.
Tell us a bit about what you did differently. Like what in practice, like maybe you can give us an example, maybe not, but if you tell us in practice what you did differently in those situations.
The first thing that I did was, before setting up meetings with the team that I'm leading, the first thing that I did was setting up meetings with the management team, the other head ofs, understanding their perspectives, understanding their needs, understanding their goals. Because if you don't talk about them, they will not tell you just out of the blue, right? So you have to ask for it. You have to understand what they are trying to achieve. And once you do that, once you understand the whole concept of how the goals work and how they click, you understand what type of piece of the puzzle you are, right? So which piece of the puzzle are you? What do you have to provide? And then you can figure that out way better with your team. So basically, bringing in this direction actually even helped me to form still a very good relationship with the team, because now the team knew better which way to go forward, right?
Because you can bring some value to the team because you already have some context and you have some understanding of the challenges. Exactly. That's fascinating, isn't it?
And I can help them also better to get their challenges across. And basically, for example, when someone had a challenge with the engineering manager, we didn't have to escalate it because I was able to give her context about what they're trying to achieve. And now with this new perspective, she was able to go into a better negotiation with the engineering manager so that they could come up with a plan of the scope of the feature that they were trying to agree on.
Yeah.
So no need anymore for any escalation or so, right? It's like context is so important. And as a leader, as a product leader, you can only get this context through a good conversational, collaborational relationship with the other, with your peers and the management.
In some ways, this is almost like doing product discovery, but with your peers and with your management, with the people who are customers of your work as a manager.
Exactly. You know. Yeah, and as I mentioned, like this is one of the first things that I have to tell them, like, no, you're 75% in the management team, 25% in your cross-functional team.
Yeah. You know, I sometimes refer to this problem as like the servant leadership fallacy or servant leadership trap. And not that servant leadership is bad. Servant leadership is really good. It's a great way to get results. It's a good thing to do. But often people overdo it. And I did this once as well. I took on a team and my manager said, well, what you need to do is dive really deep. Like go deep into everything, you know. And he sort of knew what he meant, but I interpreted this as go deep into the team. So I interviewed lots of layers of people in my team and different people in my team, tried to understand them and their concerns and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't go deep enough into my stakeholders, into my cross-functional managers, into my peers, into my managers, and all those sorts of people like that. I didn't go deep enough there, and so I didn't get the context that he thought I was going to get. I went deep in the wrong thing because I was taking a servant leadership approach. I am here as running this team to serve the team. That was my mistake, and it really
that's a great thing that you just mentioned. Like serve the team. You don't serve the team anymore. You serve the management. Full
Look,
stop.
the way I express this is as my job is to deliver the results for the management team and for the business. And the way I do that is by serving the team. I serve the team in order to deliver those results.
I see.
The thing that I'm here for is to deliver results, not to serve the team. No one hires me to serve the team.
I'll steal that.
That's fine. It's one of the reasons I have these conversations is to steal things. So
that's cool.
It's good.
Yeah.
I may have stolen that from someone else that I have no idea. But that's the way I think about this. And this is kind of what you're doing there. Is that you're going in there, first step. How do I understand what it is I'm here to deliver? How do I understand my stakeholders? How do I understand my management? How do I understand my business context and my goals? And then I can bring that to my team and serve my team by giving them that context. And that's that whole thing about Netflix management with context, right? You manage by giving context.
Yes.
So that's a fantastic way of doing this. So did this worked out better for you and this as a leader in this role?
Absolutely.
And did it work out better for your team as well?
Yes. I cannot say if it worked better for this team compared to the other team because different setup and so on. Yeah. I would say in general it worked for them.
Yeah.
I think the relationship was different then compared to the first team that I mentioned. In the first team it was a bit more friendly, but that in itself shows actually that the relationship was wrong. Right? So because you're not there for being their friend, you're there for helping them understand where to go and what to say yes to and no to, right? What is the direction? What's going on? Like you are there to help them with these kind of decisions. And in the second team, it was more, I would say, a bit colder, as in not like friends.
Yep.
But definitely more organized, more professional, I would say.
More effective?
Effective, but also really more professional. Less like, hey, we're in a startup and we just do everything together and we go for a beer afterwards and so on and so forth, which I love, by the way. That's a different topic, right? It's a good thing. That's a Berlin startup scene. I really love that. But more like really, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we have to achieve. Okay, if you struggle, you come to me, I help you out. This is the direction. You need help with this skill. Sure, I will show you how to do X, Y, Z. So more like on this professional level, right?
And interestingly, I think when that happens, like when you have that buddy relationship, it's very comfortable and pleasant. But realistically, the team is not then getting what they need from the manager in that situation. Whereas if you're doing the leading, the actual setting the context and setting direction, setting boundaries and all that sort of stuff, setting constraints, giving context and all that, then you're giving the team what they need, and then they can be successful. And this is where I've seen people like really benefiting from great leadership. It's not because their leader is having a beer with them. It's because their leader is able to give them the context for them to succeed in this organization.
Yeah, and the other downside of being in a buddy relationship is that you fear giving tough feedback.
Yeah,
that's also something that I've observed with the lead PMs that I coach. They're like, how do I tell my direct report now that this and this are parts that she's really not good at and she needs to become better at whatever? Thinking of one specific case right now. Not gonna go into details, but and my point was like, how do you believe she will become better at what she does if you don't tell her? Yeah, but it's gonna be an uncomfortable conversation. Yes, it's gonna be an uncomfortable conversation, but that's your job. Your job is not to make it comfortable. Your job is, yes, to run the product, make it successful, make the business successful, and also to grow your team members. If you fail at the third, you're still not a good manager or leader or boss or whatever. Right? So if you want to help her grow, you have to have this tough conversation. And the way to make it maybe a little bit easier is to create a scenario, like an environment where you both feel comfortable. So think about it. What's an environment that doesn't feel like pressure to both of you, but more like relaxed? And then he came up with something like having a walk. I'm like, great. They had a walk, they talked about stuff, and everything went fine. She appreciated the feedback, the tough love. I think they have agreed. I think the next step was like agreeing on action items on how to close the gap and so
Yeah.
on. So like it went well, and it went well.
People actually appreciate that.
Went well.
It
It went well.
Is that Turkish?
Almost.
So one of the things I've learned, I did this coaching training at Henley Business School, and one of the things I've been learning about is the power of physicality, like your physical orientation. And when you're sitting at a meeting, you're facing each other like that, and that's inherently a somewhat confrontational, adversarial sort of positioning. And so you can end up with adversarial sort of relationship there, especially if there's a table between you, which is like defensive as well. If you're walking with someone, you're walking next to them, you're going in the same direction and you're not facing them. So there's no confrontation, we're walking together. And that physical nature of that particular configuration of people, right? Just two people walking together in the same direction, looking at the where they're going to, is actually really symbolic. And
Cool.
people pick this up. It's like a weird thing. You pick it up. You have a little less intensity without the eye contact, but that also means that I can think without pressure, and I feel like we're walking in the same direction. We're going. It's actually quite a powerful thing, which I just thought I'd share as an observation.
No, that's cool. I didn't know that. Know that. And many people do it, but I didn't know that it has a psychological effect.
It does.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm just learning a lot of it. A lot of these physical things actually have a thing. I wanted to ask you one more thing about this, and then I'd love to talk about like what you actually do in your business and how people can find you and what value you do give. But the question was this same pattern of like paying too much attention to your team, or prioritizing your team over your management and your organization. I've also seen product leaders make one other mistake. This mistake is prioritizing their customers over their management. And it's a really tough one, because this whole, we talk about the importance of discovery, which is super important. And yes, the business is there to deliver the value to the customer, right? That's why you're there as a business. However, you also have internal customers. I just want to know have you experienced that, and what's your take on this concept and this balance that people have to strike as product leaders?
That happens quite a lot with those new product leaders, right? So because they are still in this mindset of, we have to make our customers happy and so on and so forth. And so there are mainly two things that I tell them. Like one, like even as an IC, even as a PM, your job is to create something that is great for your customers, but that also pays into the business goals. Like, why would you build something that doesn't pay into any business goals only because it makes customers happy, but it's actually totally not viable or whatever, right?
Build products customers love that also work for the business, I think, is the Marty Kagan phrase that is in the book. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I call it, drive business with products that customers love paying for.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice,
So
nice phrasing.
That's how I put it. And
customers love paying for. I like that too.
And the second thing that I tell them is, look, you are in the management. Again, your focus shifts. When you're in the management, your main job is to drive the business. No sustainable business, no company. So if you still want to make customers happy and are trying to explain your peers why this matters more than making business, good luck with that, because they already know that their main job is to keep the business going, and actually even grow it. So you won't have support in the other like in the management round. And the second thing is, even if you have support, you will have failed. Yeah. Because you are in the end the reason why the business isn't going well.
I think that's a really profound insight. Like this whole thing of like, if you're not able to collaborate with your team and you're not able to, your peers and your rest of your management team, and deliver the needs that they have, whatever they are, then it's not going to work. You're just not going to be able to deliver the value to the customer either. Right, you won't be able to actually. There's more than just the product team that delivers value to the customer. It's the whole organization. So your first job has got to be to build that.
Let me be clear on a detail here in what you said. So basically, you should not deliver everything what your peers need, right? Of course not. It's just more that you have to find a better way to work better together with them. So if you want to be able to influence their goals as well, and maybe convince them that what they are trying to achieve is not going to help the company holistically. You can only do this if you have gained their trust.
Yes.
And you cannot gain their trust if you constantly say, no, we have to make our customers happy and everything else doesn't matter. You will just not gain any trust. And if you don't have any trust, you will not be able to convince them to maybe change their goals in some way, or align their goals, or align their strategies better with yours, right?
Yeah.
It's more about this alignment and influence with your peers, like leadership peers, than really doing or delivering everything that they want, because that's not gonna work.
I'm not suggesting they should deliver everything they want. It's just more a matter of like reciprocating the flexibility you're asking from them. So like, you know, do the listening, do the understanding, discovery things, be a bit flexible about like, we're not being religious or you know, fundamentalist about here's product principles and here's the way we do product and here's what customers need.
They don't
everyone
care.
must cooperate with me.
They don't care. If you do assumptions mapping or opportunity solution tree, whatever, they don't care. They say, oh, were you able to deliver X MRR on top of what we're doing already? No? Okay, go back and do something to get it.
Yeah,
I don't care how.
So there's got to be some sense of flexibility and give and take there. And to me, this is really this whole thing about like the job is as a product leader is not to be a product evangelist. Like a little bit of that is fine, but it's not primarily to be a product evangelist. We leave that to the people who write the books. But you know, the real job there is to deliver the value for the business and to build a team and to build your own team, but build your relationship with the other teams and the peer relationships and all that. We have talked in our previous conversations. We both have ADHD, and we've talked a bit about that. I'd love to just know how you've dealt with those challenges and what you've learnt along your journey.
Yeah. So basically, one thing that I notice is in my career, I struggled a lot, as in like the ADHD type a lot, right? So we tend to exaggerate. So something that is normal for others is for us sometimes like, oh, a lot panic sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So in this mindset, and me having very high standards for myself, I would say I struggled a lot in that sense that I encountered many situations where I did not understand why we have to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And if I don't understand it, I cannot really do it. That kind of situation. It's not like that anymore, but I had those situations. And back then, when I had those situations, I tried to understand, A, why do I feel like that? And B, why can't I deliver if I see it meaningless? And then a couple of years ago, before I had the diagnosis, like when I was still working as a PM, having this understanding of, hey, my job is to support, I started to give a fuck about me understanding or not, right?
Yeah.
And now with the diagnosis, it makes sense to me now in hindsight why I had those struggles, right? So, and now that I know that that I can get into, that I can get struggling. Is that right? That I can
struggle.
I can struggle. Thank you. If I don't understand why we're doing something, when I get into the situation, I immediately know, it's just, happening here. It's all fine. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I figure it out later. It has its reason. I will figure it out. But for now, get into execution. Right, so that's one thing. The other thing is I had some weird situations in my career. Maybe this is helpful for people who can who feel familiar in this kind of situations. I had situations, especially with the management level, when I saw how they are chatting during lunch or I don't know, having a walk, and they're chatting about whatever, And I tried to be part of the conversation because that's how you do it, right? So if you want to have visibility, you have to have conversations with the management level and so on and so forth. And I had multiple situations where it felt like what I said didn't make any sense. Like, why am I saying this? Or stupid topics that nobody is interested in or whatever, right? So like very uncomfortable small talk because I just tried to say something without understanding the situation or understanding the conversation. Yeah. So these kind of things seem to be typical for people with ADHD, right? So you don't really understand what's going on, but you want to be part of it. Okay, cool. Also, time management, right? This block your calendar thing doesn't work for ADHD people. It just doesn't. It does, right? So and then you have to figure out your own ways how to manage your own time, your own ways how to manage your to-dos. And before the diagnosis, I was already intuitively doing things differently than like in those time management guru books or whatever. And I always felt weird, like, why does that not work for me? Why not? I don't understand.
Why does getting things done not work?
Right.
It's a GTD method, right?
Checking off stuff from a to-do list kicks off dopamine and makes you get things done. No,
I don't have enough.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work like that for me.
It doesn't. Right? So basically accepting that your way of managing your time and tasks is way different, embracing it and finding your own ways of creating this accountability with yourself and this time management and stuff.
Yeah.
That's very important. And I believe there are many neurodiverse people in the tech scene. Yeah. I think the official numbers are 30%. I'm pretty sure it's more.
In my experience, it's... I would say so. One of the with the time management thing, one of the things that I've found is that things that do work for me, at least, stop working after a while, and then I have to change them to make them interesting again. And I always wished that I could develop the perfect system, that I would just always have the same system and it would be perfect. But what I found is that I have to change my system on a regular basis because otherwise it's not interesting enough for me. And I lose interest in my system, whatever the system is, even if it's successful. And it's kind of funny, like I kind of just need this challenge of like, oh, I've got this new system and I'm working on it. And I remember working with my coach, my ADHD coach, on this. And so she said, well, it's just how your brain works. You need to re-sparkleize it. That was her word. Re-sparkleize your system every now and again. Every now and again you get bored with it and you just need to change it up. So she has like 6 different systems that she cycles through, and every now and again she adds another one. And just like, oh, this is not working anymore. I'm going to do this. And she makes peace with that. I'm learning to make peace with that myself. It's an interesting...
Yeah, I do the same. I have different ways, like how to keep myself accountable, like with the body system, for example, or solo dailies. I do dailies with myself sometimes.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just, okay, I have this pile of to-dos. What's my brain capacity? Oh, I'm half asleep. Okay, I will just do the easy stuff. kind of thing, right? So it really changes. And I believe, especially for like in the leadership level, it doesn't matter if you have ADHD or autism or whatever. The type of stress and multitasking and lots of things that basically explode your schedule is kind of similar. Yeah. And what I've noticed is, like, even if you are not diagnosed or you are not neurotypical, which is also fine, these tips or these things that work for me, I tell them to try things out, and they seem to also partially work for them.
Yeah.
That's super interesting, because the type of thing that is happening to you is pretty similar. Everybody wants something from you. Well, in an ADHD brain, that's like 24/7 like this, right? Because you want something from yourself as well, and not just one part of you, but 5 parts of you plus the people from outside. So everybody wants something from you. Same with the product leadership. You have more tasks to do than your calendar allows. Well, same with ADHD people, right? So maybe you try out not just time blocking, but maybe energy blocking. Oh, I know that I'm more creative in the afternoon. Okay, cool. Do the creative stuff in the afternoon. It doesn't matter what it is, but just block some creative stuff room in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Or do a hard cut between work and private. Officially, I'm right now still in my summer break, and I have uninstalled LinkedIn from my phone, and I decided to keep it that way so that I can only open up LinkedIn when I'm in my study, and when I'm in my study, it's working time, and when I close the door, it's done.
Yeah.
Right? So do this hard cut, because otherwise it's going to distract you. It's going to distract the hell out of you, basically.
Yeah. I always think of like organizations, a lot of the challenges we see with organizations, you kind of have to consciously organize time and consciously organize work and consciously make sure that everyone really understands the goal and, the strategy, and link people's work to the strategy and so on. And what I find is that individuals who are neurotypical don't have trouble with those kinds of things. Well, ADHD people do, but that means that a lot of the same solutions that work for organizations work individually. You have to scale them down and change it. But the concept
and
works.
Vice versa.
And vice versa. Yeah, you're externalizing a lot of this brain work and putting the execution system into paper.
Yeah. I'm working with a team right now. I call them the ADHD team because they say yes to everything. Yeah. They don't have time at all. They commit to goals that they last minute decide to change, right? And I'm like, okay, you're the ADHD team. How do we create focus and keep our commitments and stop saying yes? And these individual things these things that work for an individual works for this team. This is so cool. Right? So
that's really interesting, isn't it? I certainly found that. I've observed that pattern as well. I think this actually leads into your work with teams. And I'd love to just as we end up, what is it that you do these days, and who comes to you and why? What problem what's the typical situation where someone says, "Oh my goodness, I need Büşra"? How do you help?
It's typically two extremes. One extreme is we're a project organization. We're moving into a product organization. So basically, like a product transformation. And they need an experienced product person to help their teams understand how to work in this new way of working, what to do, how to work together, which systems to set up, etc., etc. So I go in there and basically show them how to do what we call product discovery today. So I have a strong lean startup background, so we were calling it a continuous experimentation, hypothesis-based product management work. Help them understand how to use data and metrics to understand which direction to go, and if they happened to be successful with what they were building. Also help the product leaders then set up product strategies so that the teams can work towards that. That's the one extreme, like how do I become a product organization? Yeah. And the other extreme is, we are a product organization already. We think we're great, but something's not working. The business needle doesn't move. Why not? Typically, I come in and then typically it's the same type of reasons. And then I do a mix of working with the teams to basically help them create focus and not just focus on delivery, but actually how do we create impact and prove it? And how does this impact that we create actually feed into business goals? Like get this connection right, because that's where the biggest mess is usually, right? So that there's this connection. By doing that, being the supporter of the product leader to actually help them, I don't want to call it help them create high-performing teams, because this is such a buzzword. Really, it's more about help them figure out what's going on in their teams, why the business needle doesn't move, and which part is it that they can help, or they can what's their contribution to actually make this whole chain work, so that what they deliver as a cross-functional team, and they do deliver and so on and so forth, so that what they deliver is the right thing, so that the business needle moves as well. Part of that is also coaching individual PMs to upgrade them to become more strategic thinkers. That's a big issue. That's a really big issue. Many product leaders see they have PMs, but like they don't get it. My PMs don't get it, right? So and this is not a myth, it's happening. It's not their fault, not the product leader's fault, not the PM's fault. It's typically that usually in these scenarios, the PMs never had a senior person who shows them what that actually means to be the supporter of the product leader, right?
Yeah.
So I go in there and upgrade them so that they become strategic thinkers, become a better supporter of the product leader, become better supporter of their cross-functional team, and basically help create successful products for the organization.
Nice. Excellent. So typically it's the product leader who comes to you, or who's the main customer there?
It's typically product leader, or
Yeah.
sometimes it's a brave product manager who reaches out to me and says like, can you help us?
Yeah.
So what I also do is not always this long-term engagement, right? So typically I also do like run workshops that are dedicated to this need that I find out, okay, what is it actually? Usually it's either about success metrics. We fly blind. We don't even know if we create any impact. And if we do, maybe we're probably measuring the wrong things. Or also very, very typical, we are B2B, we don't have data, we cannot have metrics. Oh yes, you can, and I can show you how, right? So, and you should, basically. Yeah. Or the other part of the request is, hey, we have a new, we don't know, it's typically established companies or growing companies. We know how to iterate stuff, but now we are supposed to build something new. We don't know how this works. Come in and show us. Right, so how do we build stuff in an existing organization?
Awesome.
Not features, but like more like products, right? More new products or product enhancements, basically.
Yeah, so it's interesting. What you say there is pretty much the typical description of a product leadership coach. It's like a lot of the things that a lot of people do, and just I do some similar things but differently. We don't do the same things. We do different things, but we're solving similar problems. It's really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It needs both angles, right? It needs somebody who works directly with the product leader and somebody who works directly with the teams. And I typically work directly with the teams. I'm also working with the product leader, but more in the sense of, okay, how do we bring this together? Not as in helping the product leader to steer the new way of working or whatever. Right?
It's awesome. I love the way this connects back to that conversation we had at the start around, understanding your manager and understanding your business context, and then getting that from the business context, the CEO, the other peers, the leadership and stakeholders, through the leader of the product organization or wherever you are, the cross-functional leader team, to the product manager and to the rest of the product team. And so that connection between all of this context flowing through the organization and solving that problem to link it all together. Exactly. I love the way that all links together.
I call it from strategy to execution to measurement.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I like the measurement piece. Cool. Excellent. Büşra, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. And
it's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a while, but I've really enjoed our conversation. Hope we can do it again sometime soon.